This is Curious Brain Thoughts.
Hello, I'm Lou.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Welcome to Curious Brain Thoughts.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. So tell me, Paul, what is a curious brain fart?
Well, curious brain fart is kind of like when you can't hold one in and you just got to let it out. So it's an outbound sharing of things that we are sort of curious about in any order they come out. Sometimes they're ripe, sometimes they're silent, sometimes they're very vibrant. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Well, hello, Lou.
Hello, Paul. How are you?
Splendid, thank you. Splendid. I've brought a guest with me this week.
Who have we got?
We have Roscoe. He is my dog, and he is milling around us and, might squeak or bark or...
Amazing.
Come for a cuddle.
Love dogs.
Great. Awesome.
So what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, we've had a flurry of input from people, which is nice.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it is very exciting. And we've had something come in from a lovely chap called Michael Borman.
Hello, Michael.
And he's quite big on Instagram and LinkedIn, yeah?
I think I've seen his stuff. I don't recognise his name as much, but I think you've told me about it, Paul. It's a thing called Wisdom Made Easy.
Yes, indeed. So this week's episode
brilliant.
is brought to you by Michael. What he said is, hi, Paul. I'm all about the world of wisdom, so I'd love to hear any thoughts on that topic. What is wisdom by your definition? How can we get wiser? What's something you got wiser in last year? What are the attributes or practices of the wise? So thanks for a really light topic there, Michael. It shouldn't take us long at all. We're going to nail this.
We also had some feedback from another listener who said, when we're talking about a topic, it might be interesting to begin with a dictionary definition to ground things. So how about we start with that?
Go for it. Looks like you're primed and ready.
I've just looked it up on Tinterweb.
Fine. And Roscoe's destroying a toy.
Fine.
Great.
So here we are. It's wisdom is a noun, and the dictionary definition is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. The quality of being wise. So it's experience, knowledge, and good judgment.
I'll have a go then. So wisdom, I think, it's not very far away from that, actually, so I don't want to repeat. For me, it's a collection of experiences and knowledge and information that is all in this sort of melting pot, and it's very contextually aware. So wisdom might have some fundamental truths about it, and it isn't rigid because it's context-based.
And I think the people we think of as wise... So I always think that you're a wise soul, Paul. And I don't know if listeners, if you're aware, some of you may well be, some of you may not be. Paul is my brother. And he's a deep reflector, and I always think of Paul as a wise soul. We have another brother, Bernard. I always think Bernard is very wise. He comes out with things. So I think sometimes wisdom is something we don't perceive about ourselves necessarily. Others find what we say helpful. But for me, if I think about the people in my life who I think are wise, it's not because they're showing up and telling me loads of stories about their experiences. Please, let me tell you a story about my experience and when I demonstrated good judgment. It's not that so much. It's about being able to distill it and, to your point, put it, in a context or ask a question that would allow me to apply some of that to my own experience. So it's not that you maybe in the knowledge and experiences and judgment that you show in your own life, that in itself can be an example to other people without you needing to say or do anything,
Mm-hmm.
and to then distill it down into a, without wanting to say there's a trite truism. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying let's trot out all the cliches or let's tell all the stories. If you think maybe that's something, what do these wise people have about them? Why do we think of them as wise?
And it's interesting because you've also been described as being wise. If you think back even not that long ago, probably maybe 3 or so months ago, we were in a meeting with someone and they said, I see you as really wise, Lou.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and that was identified as your superpower. Which is quite interesting.
Which I can't remember.
Which you don't remember, which is awesome because I do remember. And I'm the one with no memory.
Amazing.
However, so
Perfect.
That's great. What a tag team. We'll tell you more about things we can't remember in a moment.
Amazing.
If we remember. The thing I was thinking about is that wisdom is nothing to do with intellect or intelligence. For me, wisdom is about how I express. So I don't see myself as wise, by the way. I think wisdom is about how open I, the royal I, am to things, like the royal we. So I don't want to talk for everybody else, so I'll talk for myself. I think I have moments of clarity when I am more open to things, when I can hold things lightly. I don't have to grip tightly to something. This is absolutely the right way to go. This is absolutely the right thing to do. I can hold on to it a little bit more lightly. Do you see what I mean?
I do.
So then I can allow other things to be true as well, not just one thing.
So maybe one of the things about, and goodness, there's people who we perceive to be wise, but also we all have moments of wisdom and insight for ourselves, right? So it's not that no one can exhibit wisdom. I think we all can. And one of the characteristics of that state is that you're able to step back and hold a certain perspective, which allows you to hold things, even challenging things, lightly.
Yeah.
Not in a Vulcan death grip, which is where we often find ourselves, especially if things are hard.
And so, I think about a lot of the things I consider wise. And it is the fact that there is this kind of universal truth to them. And their huge applicability.
It reminds me, there's an echo in my head of that thing we were talking about when something is simple. Often wisdom is expressed simply, but it's as a result of very deep reflection, possibly over a long period of time. So it is this distillation into something that is helpful and of service to other people. And to ourselves.
And I guess we're sort of drifting into how can we get wiser? Because we've mentioned a couple of times about being open and not gripping things too tightly and reflecting. So those are some ways in which we can get wiser. One of my favourite things we talked about a long time ago was being sure enough about something to be unsure. And that sounds super confusing, and I kind of think it's a gateway to allowing you to let go of things, not holding on to them so tightly. Because if I'm sure enough to be unsure, it's kind of like a tree. I was thinking about this the other day. Think of a tree that the leaves come and it blooms, and that's all wonderful. And the tree is so sure it's able to be unsure because it will let go of all of its leaves,
Yeah.
and the blossom will go, and the fruits will fall off. It's not clinging on to everything so that it stays there and rots.
And here's the beautiful thing about trees. A tree surgeon friend of mine told me that the thing that enables the leaves to fall off is because the buds of the new leaves are already there. They just need to wait. They need to wait and be dormant all winter, and in the spring, when you're walking, you can hear as that some of these, particularly beech and trees like that, they pop when the leaves come out. You can hear these popping noise. So the leaves fall because the new leaves are already there.
I just think it really struck me about that sure enough to be unsure, and how that's because trees have their deep roots.
Yes.
They're very well grounded. They're not letting go of who they are. They are what they are. And, so when I think about wisdom made easy, this might be an idea that Michael wants to pick up on and draw something along those lines, because it is so powerful.
I also think that with things that are represented in pictures or in stories, if you think about also stories, I heard a story this morning about, and so stories are, I think, often contain wisdom, because, and we can unpick that for ourselves and make those connections, but we like the story that speaks to us, and pictures are the same. This story was about these elephants in a circus, and they were tied with a piece of rope to a chair, and they didn't go anywhere. And this guy was visiting the circus, and he said to one of the handlers, I don't understand, because those elephants could easily just walk away. And the handler said, you see, well, what we've done is we've done that from the time when they were very, very small, newborn elephants. And actually at that moment, it was too heavy. And we did it every day. And they've learned that they can't walk away. And so they don't try now. And so obviously that story has a message to it that we can all extrapolate into our own lives however we choose. And I think that there's something about how you choose to express the wisdom, whether you express it in a story, in a picture, it enables people to grasp it. It's slightly more abstract. It doesn't hold it so tightly, so people can then take it and apply it to their own lives.
Make it their own.
Exactly. And I think that's why those things are so powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And that's when you've stumbled on something, when you see it somewhere, you hear it somewhere, whatever, that is really powerful. It's because several people can pick up the same thing and see it very differently. And that's the power, really, of wisdom. And with wisdom comes discernment, which is, I see that as another step further. Being able to, with all of this data, information, knowledge, and then wisdom, discernment is beyond just decision making.
What's the difference?
When you are discerning something, this isn't just, is it good for me, is it good for you? Is this right, is this wrong? It's much bigger. I don't have a very good way of describing it. For me, it's more of a feeling when it feels like something lines up inside of me. So you can make a head decision, you can make a heart decision when the two are lined up, and it's not just yours that are lined up. So it might not line up for you straight away, a decision or something that you're thinking about. When you're discerning what is the right thing to do, it can actually feel very uncomfortable for a while, is my experience. And looking at it at a more macro level, it is creating some balance, some goodness, some positivity. and that starts to flow through.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that sometimes we can get some kind of paralysis around making a decision or discerning what the right path is, because it has to be, it has to be right. I have to know, and I have to be 100% sure. And maybe there's some real wisdom in saying, again, trying to hold that as lightly as possible, even though some of these decisions have huge, huge ripple effects. There's some wisdom in saying, that alignment, as you say, of head and heart and spirit and whatever else.
Yes.
And in saying, actually, how do the trees do it? How does nature do it? How, what, opening yourself to other perspectives, taking a tiny step forwards, even if you're not sure, that will give you some feedback, and you'll be able to, in other words, taking some action, however small, and seeing how that goes is better than sitting there trying to understand which is the right path. In my experience, like you said earlier, I'm I am no one to say anything other than reflect my own experience, and I don't have any of the answers. We never pretend to have any of the answers, but I was talking to our brother yesterday about the ripple effect of people. So whether we know it or not, we have a ripple effect in the world, and some of that is intentional. If you look at Wisdom Made Easy, that's an intentional, positive impact that Michael's having on the world. And I think we all do that in our own unique ways. And there's all the unintentional stuff that you might be walking down the road, smile at a stranger, and that will have a ripple effect on that person. And the point isn't that you know what the effect is, only that you're having one. And maybe it's the same with wisdom. The point isn't to be a guru, to know all of the answers to all of the things, simply to do the work, do the thinking, do the distillation, offer it up, and then that's it. It has whatever effect it has.
I completely agree with that. The moment you think you're wise, or the moment you think you've got it, is probably more evidence to suggest you haven't. And I believe I heard this somewhere ages ago, that in Buddhism it says if you see Buddha on the road, kill it, because it isn't Buddha. It's this false idea. I'm here, I've arrived. No. Nice try.
So maybe then there's real hubris in thinking that you're wise.
Sorry. Hubris?
Say. Sorry, everyone. Paul's got a reverb button. I do apologise.
Lou, why don't you tell us what is hubris?
So I'm going to tell you a story.
Oh. I like that.
It's about a person we all know, and that person is Icarus. And he wanted to fly, and he had some wings, and those wings were made out of wax. And he did fly, but he flew too close to the sun. He got overconfident. Hubris is
sorry, just a quick one. They were made of feathers, right? And they were glued together with wax.
Yeah, something like that.
As opposed to made of wax.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty heavy.
Fine. Paul's editing my wise story.
Sorry, yeah.
Well, whatever.
So he
had the wind beneath his wings, Paul.
Yeah. And up
whatever those wings were made of.
So we got too close to the sun, And it all
wax melted, oopsie daisy. The point being,
I remember it being told just like that.
yeah, same.
Oopsie daisy.
Yeah, it's like move over
Yeah.
Socrates and all those fellas.
mm.
Homer, whatever.
Simpson.
Yeah, more likely. Where was I? The point is, he got overconfident, and that was his downfall. So hubris is just that. It's bordering on arrogance.
I get you.
I've got this. There's nothing that can stand in my way. That's confidence.
Right.
But when you overreach that, that's hubris. And the gods. This comes from Greek and Roman mythology. The gods will smack you down. That's the vibe, man, that old Icarus found out for his big bad self. So I can't even remember why I started talking about hubris now.
Sorry, what was that?
I've lost my train of thought. Never mind. Probably wasn't very helpful.
I don't know. We'll hear back.
No, I've got it.
Oh,
I've got it.
Here we go.
In the same way that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, wisdom can only be something that other people feel about you.
Yeah.
If you feel it about yourself, then that is potentially hubris. And so your intention is to have a positive ripple effect in the world, to put, or whatever it is. Great.
Can you imagine if your name was Hugh Briss? It'd be pretty...
That would be awkward, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Hugh Briss. All right, mate, calm down.
Just so arrogant, that hubris. Can't stand the guy.
I know. Just, take him down a peg or two. So, I agree with Hugh and Lou and Briss, the family of Briss. I completely agree. So, we're not let off the hook yet. What's something you got wiser in last year?
That's a good question. Well, if we define wisdom as the sum of our experiences and our judgments and our discernments and our knowledge, then I got more wise at failing and more specifically embracing the gold that sits within making mistakes and not seeing things soon enough and doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I did all of that last year and learned a huge amount because of it. So it was, and the thing for me last year, one big reflection is the destination that you think is the destination isn't always. It's a step on the journey. It's not. So you're going in the right direction. I'd made certain stories up in my own head and constructed things in a certain way. And it didn't go that way.
Yeah.
It went a different way. And that's all good because there was huge richness in that. And I found it really difficult to have my version of things like deconstructed and reconstructed in a different way. So, yeah, that's what I got wiser at, making mistakes and learning from them.
For me, I suppose it's in a similar vein. I'm just trying to think about it because it's this wisdom being this melting pot of experiences, of knowledge and information, things you're learning, applying, trying, observing. So, do I feel wiser? I think I am more self-aware
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about being wiser at myself. And I think the better articulation of that is I'm more self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also, in a similar vein to you, I've had to work at letting go of whatever I think is, it's this direction. It's not that direction. It might be generally in that heading.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not that specific coordinate that you thought it was.
Yeah.
So, and having to let go. And I've been doing a lot of being sure enough to be unsure. And that's not perfect.
And it's hard.
And it's hard. It's very hard.
And circling back to what you said about wisdom, which is you're able to hold things lightly and there's a certain sense of perspective or distance in it. That links into what you've just said.
Yeah.
Which is possibly a step along the way. I don't think wisdom is a place that you arrive at.
No.
I don't think it's it's just something that you gather along the way, if you're able, and we're not always able, of course, if you're able to reflect and learn.
Yeah.
Then I think inevitably we will all become wiser and wiser.
And one thing I'm thinking about is those who are put on a pedestal as gurus or really wise or whatever else. That's actually I think if I project that onto myself, I would find that extremely hard.
The minute you open your gob, you've got to say something wise.
Yeah, and not only that, it's like this illusion that I would therefore be further ahead in understanding this than everybody else. So I would have to remain very, very humble if I were to be put in a position like that.
And I think the best people are extremely humble, extremely human, acknowledge the journey we are all on together. In other words, they reject the pedestal.
Yeah.
Others may put them on it and they don't believe it of themselves and don't behave and act in that way because that's not the truth of it. And they are wise enough to know that. It's, that expression, older and wiser. Well, you can be a day older and a little bit wiser. It doesn't mean you have to be an old, crusty old person to be wise, because there are some older people who
are no different because they have remained closed. And so I think it's openness.
Yeah.
And the ability to hold things gently.
And to be humble and to learn and reflect.
Yep.
So that's what wisdom is.
Wicked. So the attributes of the wise are those who are humble, those who are open and flexible, learning, not professing to have the answers, and very curious. Yeah,
so in that way, I think we all have some wisdom in us. It's 100%. Present in all of us.
Yep, to greater or lesser extent.
Yeah.
Well, that was amazing. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for the wisdom.
You're welcome. Thanks for wising me up, you wise ass. Yeah.
Best wishes.
Kind regards. Ta-ra.
Bye.
Curious Brain Thoughts.